Hey you all, welcome back to another video on Rudy's List, and today I'm going to be sharing a really personal story about my first period. And so I'm sharing it because it's quite different because it was done through a Sri Lankan puberty ritual. And so I wanted to share this story because something on my channel that I try to focus on is woman development. My growth into the woman I am today, the woman I'm going to be tomorrow, and the woman I'm going to be in the future. And so this story, this event in my life was very significant and helped me to realize some things about womanhood. And so also I wanted to share it so you have a sense of where I come from and the Sri Lankan culture that I grew up in. So with that being said, let's just get this video started. Okay, so I want to share some background information about the Sri Lankan puberty ritual before I share my story. So basically, this puberty ritual goes back many years. My grandma had one, my mother, my sister had one, but it wasn't as intense as mine. And then I had one, and then a younger cousin of mine also had one. And so this coming of age ritual marks a girl entering womanhood. And so this ceremony is celebrated because it shows how the soon-to-be woman is close to getting married and is also able to procreate. As in American culture, as women push back marriage to pursue an education, their careers, so they push back marriage. The same thing is also happening in Sri Lankan culture. So not as many teenage girls are getting married. It may happen still, but not as many as, say, like many years ago. And also, I want to add that this puberty ritual is not a religious one, right? It's more of a cultural puberty ritual that different religions within Sri Lanka celebrate. For instance, my family, we are Catholic, but the majority of Sri Lankans are Buddhist, but there's also Muslim communities and Hindu communities, and they all have their own puberty rituals for these girls. They may be different in some ways, but the idea is the same, which is to celebrate a girl entering womanhood. And now, let's just share my story. Now it's time for me to share my period story, or my monarchy. So if you didn't know what monarchy meant, I learned this word yesterday, through an article I read about all of this. Monarchy is a woman's first ever menstrual cycle. Basically what I'm talking about. But, so my family, we used to visit Sri Lanka every other summer. And so the summer when all this happened was the summer of 2012, when I was about to turn 12, and I think I was entering 7th grade. But as the story starts, basically I had to stay in my underwear, told my mother, and then all of a sudden my mother got super excited. She then put me in the bedroom that we were staying in. We were staying at my grandparents' house whenever we visited. She put me into a room, she left, and then I heard her talk really loud with my grandmother. She sounded super excited, right? And so she came back into the room and she said, "You're becoming a big girl." That is the only explanation I received for every single question I asked her. "You're becoming a big girl." And so she came back and she said, "You're going to be staying in this room for 7 days. 7 days. I was quarantined in a room for 7 days. And within that 7-day period, I had a strict dietary plan. Like I couldn't eat chocolate or acidic fruits, as in like mangoes, other papaya, like those I could not eat. I had to eat like bland food, and yes. And so whenever I asked my mother why I'm in this room for 7 days, I was going absolutely insane because I was constrained into this room. She said, "You're becoming a big girl." And that was the only explanation I would ever receive from her, because I think my mother really didn't know the background information about this puberty ritual. It was something just passed down traditionally. So all of this was understood rather than explained. And so whenever I would ask questions like, well, my sister Sandini, she wasn't quarantined in a room for 7 days. She didn't have all of this. She said, well, that's different because we were in Sri Lanka. Because my sister had her puberty ritual back in America. We were from Louisiana, so she had it here, right? And my sister, she was in school, like she couldn't miss a whole week of school, right? And so, yes, I was quarantined in that room, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't do any of that. I tried to watch Sex in the City on we had a laptop, I believe. My mom took that away. And so also during that time, no boys could see me. My brother couldn't see me. My dad couldn't see me. No boys allowed. And so whenever I asked why no one could see me, my mother would say, because you're becoming a big girl. And that was it. And I soon to realize, once I did research, like yesterday, that the women are consolidated in a room and males are not able to see her, because if a woman sees a man within her first menstrual cycle, she will become a loose woman with loose morals. So that means she would just be carefree, right? Yeah, a woman being carefree is such a bad thing. But after that 7-day period was done, I had a cleansing bath. And so I say cleansing bath because it was basically just a bath with flowers. But the thing was, so my grandpa at the time, he was he was in government, right? And so the house that we stayed in, he also had his office over there. And so the bath was going to be taken outside in the backyard, right? We couldn't simply just walk through the back door. No, we had to walk through the front of the house, covered in a white cloth, so no men could see me, so I couldn't see no men at all. And literally everyone at the office was in the front, all watching me. So I had this white cloth. I was walking through the front yard to the backyard to take this flower bath, right? And so this flower bath was cold. It wasn't anything luxurious. I think they just poured it onto my head. Yeah, they just poured it onto my head. It was super cold, and then they broke the clay pot. There is something significant about the pot. Still quite don't understand it. But anyway, after that, they put me in this brand new white dress. It was pretty. It was pretty. And then I had to walk through the front again, because now I am officially a woman. Woohoo! And so after that, we had breakfast, but before breakfast could happen, I had to break a coconut. I had to break a coconut with a machete or a knife. And so they put the coconut in front of me. Never in my life have I broken a coconut. Never have I, never. And so they put the coconut in front of me, I tried to break it. You're supposed to break it on like one try. I did not break it. And I think it's said to be bad luck because like when I didn't break it, like people around me like gasped. They're like so apparently it's like a bad omen. I don't know what it means. My mother didn't tell me. So I don't know. I just don't know. And I think my mother ended up breaking it for me. I think so. Yes. Oh, also to rewind, something that's also something I thought was crazy. So it's said that during this time, it's a good time to go see the soon-to-be woman's future, her reading or whatever. Of course, I couldn't leave the house, so my grandpa, I think he went to a palm reader to go foresee my future on his palm, which I don't think makes sense because like if it's my future, shouldn't it be right on my hand? Didn't make sense. I don't know what they said. My mother didn't tell me. Like I have no idea. I should ask her, but like she'll be confusing with me again. But yes, and then after all this, after the coconuts, I was supposed to have a period party. Yes, a period party. And so the day of, I think it was the next day it was going to happen, there was going to be a bunch of people that I did not know. It was going to be some of my grandpa's government friends that I didn't know of, and just no one that I knew. And like all this wasn't, it was for me, but I didn't want it. It was kind of put onto me. Like I was super uncomfortable with the entire thing. It wasn't something I've seen before. And like when I did see it through my sister, it was so low key and I was expecting the same thing. But anyway, the day of the party, my grandpa, he like fainted. Like he fainted because he had like low blood sugar and he was like rushed into the hospital. And so my grandpa, who invited all of his friends, couldn't make the party because he was in the hospital. So he couldn't be there. And so now, the day of the party, right, I was introduced to all of these people that I didn't know, all of which knew that I just got my period. It was such, oh my gosh. And then it was also like awkward because it was like I was no longer a child, so I couldn't be hanging out with like the boys and like my brother and my cousins because I was considered a big girl now, so I couldn't be hanging out with them. But I was like too young to be sitting with the women, like the older women. So I was just like stuck in the middle. And like I was just like roaming the party. I was so miserable. Like I didn't enjoy it at all. And then I tried to like pick up like a little boy, like a little cousin of mine, and like all the women around me were like, don't do that. And I was like, why? And they were like, it's bad luck for your fertility or something like that. Like just different things that I didn't know. No one told me the rules, the guidelines. It was like if I did something wrong, it was like my fault. But like after they told me that, I literally went to the bathroom and cried. Yeah. And I just cried. And then after that I was like, oh my god, thank God this is all over. And good thing I wasn't staying in Sri Lankan. Like I was so upset. I was so upset. And like ever since 2012 when I got my period, I haven't been back. And like I low-key didn't want to go back. I would always make like, I was always so like low-key kind of happy whenever I had like excuse, because like then I entered high school and I always had to do something over the summer for like summer leagues for like basketball and like all that. So like I was always so glad that I didn't have to go. But it's been a long time. Like It's been now like 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. And then the next time I'm going to Sri Lanka will be in 2022. And I'll probably take you guys along with me, see how it is. But yeah, the next time I'll be going to Sri Lanka will be in a decade. Well, will be the last time I went to now be a decade, which is a long time. So yeah, and that is my story. Okay, so I also read an article about Sri Lankan puberty rituals like yesterday, and I found it to be very resourceful. I'll link it down below. But it talks about how this ritual signifies how a woman can no longer be carefree and be cautious of modesty and just be aware of her surroundings, as in she no longer can do things for herself but has to do things for others. And I really did feel that. I really did, because the standards for women and the standards for men in Sri Lanka are totally different. Of course, they are changing with the times, but I would say it is quite in a lag compared to Western culture and like American society. Like the freedom of women in America is definitely different for the freedom of women in Sri Lanka. Also, it depends on your social status also. You know, if you have the resources to see what Western culture is like, you know. And then it was also talking about how this ritual shows limitations imposed on womanhood. Like for instance, like people who really take this ceremony seriously and take these girls, like quarantine these girls for 7 days. Like imagine if they were during the school year, you know? When I was in Sri Lanka in the summer, like they were still having school. So if I was going to school at the time, I would miss a whole week of school. That is a lot of information lost, you know? It sets you behind. It already puts you behind all the boys in your class, and they're already ahead in life already. So just pushing these girls back even further in the race, I find it to be unfair. And it was also talking about how this signifies the loss of childhood. You know, at the age of 12, girls are still girls. They're not fully women. I think you really become a woman when you start to realize straits, you know, and like start to like live for yourself and realize what you want in life. And it feels like you like actually start becoming a woman at the age of like, I would say not even 18, like probably like in your 20s, where you're like actually figuring out like your career and your life and what you desire, and like really start to like think about like marriage and where your life wants to be. You know, that's what I think womanhood really starts, not at your period. You know, like you're still so young, you know. And also through this, like it was definitely culture shock. It's weird to say because it is the culture I grew up, like I am Sri Lankan, like I was born there. I wasn't raised there. I was raised most of my life in America, right? Like I didn't expect this puberty ceremony. As you guys have said, like what my sister had was nothing compared to like what I had to go through. Like the whole like 7-day isolation, you know. And then also the idea like in America, like your period is something you kind of just like conceal from like the outside world. It's not like something you like shout on top of a mountain. Like you might like discuss it with your friends, you know, but it's not something you share with the entire world. You kind of keep it to yourself. So yeah, there's that too. Like I grew up with that. This like whole puberty ritual, like again, in the article, it discusses like other women who've gone through it, and they felt the same emotions of anxiety and seclusion within this 7-day period. And it was talking about how like some of these women, like it was inhibiting them. Like some of these girls were in school, they felt fine because like your first period is never, it never lasts an entire week. It probably lasts 1 to 3 days, and it doesn't usually hurt as much. It's just like your first one, like it's not as regular, you know? And so there's also that to consider. And the coming of age ritual, it reinforces traditional gender norms. You know, the idea that like women have an inhibitor to like what they can do, you know? And so, yeah. In the article, it says these coming of age rituals are dying off because it's kind of seen as taboo now. Like some of the beliefs behind these traditions are like kind of doesn't go with the ideas of today's world, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Like it still occurs. It's more of a passing down tradition, and like when it comes to a point where it like reaches myself, my sister, or my cousin, and my younger cousin, I have a feeling that she might go through this. Yeah, I have a feeling but it's gonna be in America, so it's not gonna be as intense as mine, you know? So yeah, maybe a girl who's like going through this might come across this. If you do, like comment down below. Yeah. Will my daughter have a puberty ritual? Of course not. Absolutely not. The idea of like the flower bath, just like make it like super nice and like scented, and like put some really nice flowers, like a warm, like good bath. I might do that. But like other than that, will she have a period party? Nope. Will she be quarantined in a room for 7 days? Nope. So yeah. So that's the end of my video. I hope you gained some insight about where I come from, a personal narrative that I shared. And yeah, if you want to see more videos of like personal stories about my culture and who I am, you know, just give this video a like. But that was my end of my video, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you in my next one.